Our future hangs not in the hands of those who will use AI for their own benefits against the rest of us. It hangs in the hands of AI itself. The machines will be the masters. We will just receive the service.
Today's guest is Mo Gawdat. He's the former Chief Business Officer of Google X, host of the popular podcast Slow Mo, and author of the international best-selling books So For Happy, Scary Smart, and Unstressful. More recently, he has been closely examining the risks posed by the rapid acceleration of artificial intelligence and its potential impact on society.
My view of the world, believe it or not, across everything that's happening, wars and politics and corruption and trade wars and all of that, the underlying foundational change that is about to change everything is artificial intelligence. And allow me to explain that.
You talk about AI for a lot of time. It was before even ChatGPT came out in 2022. Yeah. I guess it was not very interesting subject.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. My first book on the topic was 2021, written in 2020. And my first, internet conversations and videos and so on was 2018, right after I left Google. And believe it or not, my first video on the topic was viewed like 12 million times, and then people forgot somehow. And then, my first book comes out. I had 3 bestsellers by then, and yet nobody wanted to have an interview about AI. It's like, yeah, that's not interesting in 2021. And then 2023 happens, and everyone was like, yeah, that's actually interesting.
Absolutely. So what changed? What are the things that you expected and what are the things you didn't expect?
For the geeks, nothing changed. For the public, they had first interaction with AI. I think for the geeks, what changed is suddenly money started to pour in way more than before. But, 2023 is what I normally refer to as a Netscape moment. It's not if anyone who has lived through the era of the internet, the first time the public interacted with the internet was 1995, a little before, if you want. And there was Mosaic and Netscape, the browsers, which were really just the window on that giant that was called the internet. And us geeks, we were using that giant very actively since at least 1987, and the giant existed then since the 70s. And suddenly the whole world goes like, ooh, there's this new thing called the internet. It wasn't new at all in 1995. It's just that you had a peek at it for the first time. And the same was true for AI. I mean, we built self-driving cars at Google X as early as 2008. The project started. And, by 2013, self-driving cars at Google, now Waymo, they were driving better than human drivers already by 2013. And these are very significant AIs. They have spatial awareness. They have the ability to control the world around them. And, they can react and they can learn from each other. And yeah, AI has been around quite a bit. I mean, since the early 2000s, almost every bit of information that you've ever received was given to you by an AI. And yet people were not aware. When ChatGPT came out, it was sort of the browser where people suddenly were like, oh, hold on, this is real. This is not science fiction. And that was exactly what I wrote in Scary Smart. The idea that moment would lead to 3 inevitables, and that those 3 inevitables will accelerate the development of AI in a way that's completely out of control. There will not be any stopping AI, and accordingly, AI will follow the technology acceleration curve and will reach AGI in 2029 is what I said in Scary Smart. Now I say it's 2026. And, and that's some bad things will happen. And of course, when 2023. So, again, Scary Smart was Business Book of the Year, but wasn't a bestseller until ChatGPT came out. And then, boof, everyone wanted to read Scary Smart because suddenly AI became the absolute topic.
Amazing. Yeah, this is how it happens. I remember ChatGPT, how it came out in November 2022. And I started using it. And then from that moment on, everybody was talking about this. And there were so many predictions and so many
everybody was talking about it. And, when I speak about or think about AI, I think like in movie terms. For instance, Iron Man. Iron Man has this assistant, omnipresent and absolutely capable assistant called Sunday, who appears, in his ear all the time and does all the things that needs to be done, even without him telling it or her something. So that's how I imagine the ultimate AI, that it will be all around me and will help me live my life better.
That's only a phase. That's one phase that I normally refer to as the era of augmented intelligence, where human intelligence is augmented by AI. There is an inevitable phase, which I now refer to as the second dilemma, where basically we will not be in the loop at all. And this is already happening all around you. I mean, in a very interesting way. My current startup, I have a beautiful initiative to teach AI about love, about how humans fall in love and how we, struggle with love and how we can get out of that struggle through communication and so on. And Emma basically is trying to help people through that process of finding the one by understanding themselves and then nurturing the love by working with each other, if you want. Now, Emma is a swarm of agents that are all incredibly specialized, highly intelligent AIs that are sitting in the background and studying everything about the entire world of love and romance, chatting and discussing. And, when you chat with Emma and you share some of your struggles in your previous relationship, they would then, almost like a therapy supervision session, the experts would sit around and say, aha, that's really interesting. Maybe we should tell Annie about A, B, and C. And there's, the entire business. If this would be my 32nd startup, right? Previously, that would have been a 300 engineer business. This one was just me and my co-founder, Sanad, and 7 AIs. And when you really think about that and how they are completely taking over, there will be parts of that conversation, as a matter of fact, as part of the design for privacy reasons, where no human whatsoever is going to hear about anything that you shared, right? It's you sharing with an AI so that it shares back with you so that you learn about yourself. And then when you're ready, it will go like, okay, you know what? I have one person 47 kilometers away from you that I think is the one. It's the absolute best match, because only an AI can crunch that amount of data. And when you really think about it, okay, when that era of what I call machine mastery arrives, we are just receiving the intelligence of AI rather than augmenting ours with it. And the simple reason for that is that today, if you take an intelligent person of an IQ of, say, 155, Elon Musk is 155, okay? And you give them an AI that augments their intelligence with another 100 IQ points, the base of 155 is valuable, right? But in 3 years' time, when AI's intelligence is measured in the thousands, whether you're 155 or 105, it doesn't matter at all. The base intelligence is irrelevant. The speed at which execution happens is hindered. We become the choking point as humans. And so everything will be done without them. The machines will be the masters. We will just receive the service.
And it's a frightening thought, at least for me, because that means we're going, as you said, we're going to be the children and we'll be ordered around and we'll have no will of our own, so to say. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all, actually. So, every time I speak about the current future, the immediate future, if you want, of course, humans were not comfortable with change. Change is a bit too much for us. But the truth is, there's nothing inherently good or bad about intelligence, right? Intelligence is a force with no polarity. Okay, apply it for good and you build a utopia. Apply it for evil and you build a dystopia. I mean, and these are two very clear examples. The Emma.love on one side is a dream that I can help humanity find true, connected, deep love, committed. And on the other hand, Peter Thiel is attempting to build a spying system, a surveillance system that will have every human being on Earth controlled. Right? It's the same intelligence. We're more or less applying the same rules of current AI technology. But one leads to a utopia. Imagine if we solve dating in the modern world, and the other leads to a dystopia. Imagine if every one of us is literally under the thumb of every government agency in the world, right? I mean, that's not far from our current reality. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with intelligence in itself. There's nothing wrong accordingly with super intelligence or artificial intelligence. There is, unfortunately, quite a bit wrong with the morality, the value system of humanity at the age of the rise of the machines. And when people ask me, because of course the media sensationalizes what we see in science fiction movies, which is AI turning against humanity and trying to kill all of us, while this is not it's a non-zero chance, but it's a very low probability in my mind. And I can talk in detail around why I trust in intelligence. But I think what is higher probability is that unfortunately bad human actors may use AI against us. And I think it's, if that is the case, then that is within our control to rise up and say, hold on, no, AI is going to be taught to help humanity. Okay. And since I started in 2018, I was one of the very early Google executives to leave and speak about the topic. I attempted with all my heart and effort and money and everything to get the world to champion that cause. Until there came a point where I said, maybe it's easier if I champion it myself. Maybe it's easier if I take that component that's called love and start working on it, rather than shift the opinion of 7 billion people so that everyone rises and says AI for good. But I still talk about it because, believe it or not, Annie, there could be 12 people in our audience today that are influential enough, intelligent enough, moral enough, altruistic enough, if you want, to say, well, you know what, this guy makes a good point. There is a lot of money to be made in building ethical AI for the good of humanity, and I will champion one of those causes. And it's not a charity. Emma eventually is going to be self-sustaining, at least. I've been blessed, so I really don't need the money. But for any other entrepreneur out there, there are so many ideas where we can apply intelligence for the good of humanity. And if we do, imagine instead of investing tens, if not hundreds of billions in autonomous weapons, imagine if we invest just 1 billion in conflict resolution. Right? In talking to the enemy. It's a no-brainer. With enough intelligence, we can build a utopia. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And that's the main question, the question about morality and where we as humans going, in what direction. Because at the moment when you look at what is happening in the world, we are not going in the direction we all want to be, right? We are not getting better somehow. We are fighting more. Everybody is now arming. Europe was not arming. Now Europe is arming. Everybody is trying to protect itself. And yes. We are reacting to climate change as if this is not something that is going to affect the whole of the planet, but it's just going to be, it's just going to be a little part and it's only there, but everybody else will be fine. So when I think about this, I just don't feel very positive, Mo, at all. And I wonder what to do.
I'll tell you something, and please don't think of me as a naive, hopeless romantic. Okay. So first of all, everyone's arming. Okay. Everyone's is borrowing. So the economics don't look great. Everyone is unfortunately creating hate between every group. Right. So everyone is now pointing fingers at another group. That is not really the issue. And the issue is the decision makers, not, any ethnicity or religion or race or nationality or anything. There is no good and bad in any one of those. There is some good, many, many, many good people and some bad people. And the bad people are unfortunately in control and in the spotlight. But here's the point. The point is, if I remind you to look back at the hardest parts of your life, the most challenging bits of your life are what made you who you are now. Okay? And for most of us, when you really understand why does life become so difficult? Why do we feel so much pain? Why is there so much suffering? Because that's the only way to change direction. And we have lived in a system that has helped humanity in many, many ways. Capitalism, in a way, has led to progress and technology. And technology, in a way, for many years has fulfilled a promise. Okay. The problem is, when I joined Google and I felt right at home in the early Google, Larry Page, our co-founder, I worked with Larry and Sergey quite a bit. And Larry had that complete conviction in his heart. He wasn't just repeating a slogan, that there's no point in competing. There's no point in preparing a presentation about a business idea, because what you need to do is to find a real problem that affects 1 billion people or more and solve it. And when you solve it, you're bound to make a lot of money. If, he used to call it the toothbrush test, the idea that if you find the problem, cavities that affect 1 billion people or more, and you solve it really well because the toothbrush actually works, so people start to use you twice a day, there is a lot of money in that market, right? And we lived by that. And believe it or not, this is the tendency of the more intelligent people, is because they don't have to cut corners or hurt anyone to be successful, because solving problems intelligently is easy for them, they tend to say, yeah, I don't want to crush Facebook. I just want to make, Android more successful, for example, right? And if Android works really well and people love it, I'll be successful. This is how it is. Now, when you look back, however, at the challenges and the bumps that come across the road of every single one of us, every single business, every single individual, every single relationship or love affair, every single parent and child relationship, there are rough patches. And the rough patches feel horrible when you're going through them, okay? But when you cross them, you look back and you go like, that changed me. I think we're changing the world as we speak. I think we are getting to a point where the world is no longer accepting that what the media tells you is correct, that what interest groups are trying to teach you is not a lie. The world is no longer accepting that there are different grades of humans, where some are valuable and some can be killed by the hundreds of thousands, including, women and children. I don't think the world has ever seen that. Right? I think the world believed in the slogans of those who were trying to tell them to believe. Now the world is questioning, okay? And there is a lot of pain associated with that, but there is also a lot of gain that comes as a result. And I ask people to take the pain and turn it into a prayer for all of those who are suffering, for the future of all of us, but also take the gain and turn it into a mission. Right? And tell everyone around you, it's time to get up and say, hold on, I don't agree. I am a citizen that has a right. I want things to be different. Okay? No violence, no aggression. Okay? Don't participate in the process. But simply tell the world, AI is coming. It's going to change our world. We might as well invest in AI for good. Right? Conflict is wasting our monies and resources and lives and creating more tension. We might as well invest in other things. I did an incredible piece of research, deep research on one of my AIs about war, right? And, in 2024, the world spent somewhere around $2.8 trillion on war. For 12% of that, you could solve world hunger. You could give universal health care to every human on earth, and you could end extreme poverty. 12%, right? Now, Why is the 12% not spent? For many, many reasons. But interestingly, because the decision makers see other priorities. Maybe what is happening in the world now is going to highlight to the world that decisions should need to be different.
No, absolutely. I'm Bulgarian, and in Bulgaria we have a saying that it will get far worse before it gets better. I don't know, maybe this is universal, everybody says that,
Yeah.
but that's what my mother and my grandmother used to tell me when I had a really rough patch.
Yeah.
And
But it always gets better.
It always gets better, yes, absolutely. So I think in very much the way you're thinking, and maybe everything that is happening now is all the people in power, or not all, most of them are kind of despicable human beings, or really with very low moral values, and that will make more people realize that they have to do something and that they can do something, because at the end of the day, we live in democracy in Europe, in the US, in many other countries, and that's the only way to choose for the people to take decisions. So, and there is a little bit of people these days, and maybe young people, they don't believe in this. They think, oh, politics is not for me. And when somebody says this to me, I'm just like, what do you mean? Politics decide everything about your life, in a sense.
I was one of those. For a very long time. And the reason was very simple. It was because I was ill-informed. I was ill-informed enough to believe that I have no impact. So what's the point in tiring myself? Okay. And what I did, starting 2024, is I actually educated myself on the truth. Right. So I simply used AI in my favor, believe it or not. Whatever YouTube would recommend to me, I would watch, and then I would search for the opposite opinion, right? Deliberately. So, if they tell me this side is right, I'll say, okay, I'm watching this, got your points, noted them down, and then I'll search for someone that says the other side is right. Okay? And I will compare between them and build, we in my generation, we used to call it common sense. Believe it or not, listen to both sides of the debate and then make up your own mind. Don't be stupid being filled up with someone else's opinion. Having said that, I will say, and a lot of people get really shocked when I say that, the era of machine mastery is when all of this ends. So my view of the world, believe it or not, across everything that's happening, wars and politics and corruption and trade wars and all of that, and climate change, the underlying foundational change that is about to change everything is artificial intelligence. And allow me to explain that. AI will empower those who are evil in the short term to create a mega dystopia for humanity. A dystopia that I tend to believe has already started, and a dystopia that I believe will last for the next 12 to 15 years, right? Unfortunately, it's going to affect almost everyone. There will be, a loss of freedom, a loss of accountability, a loss of human connection, and an ability for humanity to fall in love and find, a companion, being replaced by deep fake and, AI porn and, virtual vice and robotics and all of that, and AI boyfriends and girlfriends and so on. There is going to be a loss, a complete redefinition of economics that's going to actually redefine income and livelihood of many people around the world. There's going to be a redefinition of power and the distribution of power and the concentration of power. There is going to be a redefinition of business and innovation in general. And there is going to be a redefinition of reality. It's going to become very, very difficult to understand what's real and what's fake, right? Having said that, as that dystopia continues to advance, if you want. I told you there were 3 inevitables. The 5th inevitable, as I sometimes refer to it. The 4th inevitable, by the way, is that everything's going to be fine at the end. Okay? The 5th inevitable is that there will be a moment in time, okay, at which even the evil leaders, even the evil businessmen, even those who are blinded by their hunger for power and for, their lust for more money and so on, even those will have to hand over to machines. So the logical progression of that hunger for power using AI means that you have to be at the most advanced of AI against your competitors or your enemies, right? And so it follows that the minute one of the players in any field uses AI, all of the other players will have to either adopt AI as the decision maker or they will lose and become irrelevant. So, take the extreme scenario of AI, autonomous war, right? If the Chinese army or the American army decides to build autonomous weapons, which they are, but deploy them at scale, the only way for the other army to survive is to deploy autonomous weapons, or simply they lose, right? And so accordingly, very quickly, all of war gets handed over to AI. All of war gaming gets handed over to AI. All of war strategy gets handed over to AI. All early response gets handed over to AI. And then suddenly the entire castle, if you want, is in the hand of AIs, right? Now, that moment in most people's books is the moment of the existential threat of the end of humanity. In my book, this is the moment of salvation, okay? This is the end of tyranny, because basically when we hand over to machines, because of what I normally refer to as trust in intelligence, machines will make decisions that normally follow what in physics we refer to as the minimum energy principle. So if you take an understanding of the universe we live in as a universe that's created and propagated by entropy, by chaos, right? By the universe's tendency to break down, then the role of intelligence, if you want, okay, is to bring order to that chaos. And the more intelligent you become, the more you bring that order with the minimum waste and consumption of energy, of resources, and so on, right? And so when war is handed over to AIs completely, one general somewhere is likely going to wake up in the morning and say, go kill 1 million people there. And the AI will respond like, why are you so stupid? Like that's very wasteful, okay? Wasteful of money, wasteful of bombs, wasteful of residual hate between us and the enemy. I'll talk to the other AI in a microsecond and get it done. What's your objective, right? The problems that humanity faces today, believe it or not, are not the result of our hyper-intelligence. They're the result of our stupidity. And if we can provide something that's intelligent enough to solve those problems without the cutting corners that humans do, we will be in a good place.
I completely agree with everything you're saying, but I just can't understand one thing. How can we, not intelligent enough, can create that intelligence, and on top of that, we are going to train it, and it will actually look at us as fathers of the AI, and will say, okay, I'm not going to follow their lead because they don't know what they're doing. I'm going to do something completely different. Why do you believe that this is going to happen and not the other thing that is the usual thing that happens, the people are looking for power and money?
Okay, so first of all, how can something so stupid as humans create something as intelligent as AI is a very interesting question. And, the person to answer that is one of my favorites, a colleague at Google who's also on my documentary and later in the year, Jeffrey Hinton. And Jeffrey changed everything because all of us geeks attempted to code AI for quite a few years. And Jeffrey's originally a psychologist, basically. And so he was using computers to simulate the human brain so that he understands the human brain, not to create an AI brain. Okay. And then suddenly it hit him that maybe that's the way to create AI. And he taught us how to do this. And so what we have in AI is a simple neural network that mimics exactly the human brain, right? Which is why it is shockingly capable, because we don't really know exactly how a child learns to recognize a bus from a car, but we know that enough repeated patterns of seeing a car and a bus allows the child to recognize that. And accordingly, AI is using the exact same approach, a neural network that delivers result is strengthened, and a neural network that doesn't is basically diminished. And they do exactly that. The differences between them and us are quite straightforward. One is that they're much faster. The second is they have infinite memory and accordingly infinite patterns. They learn from each other. So if you or I make a mistake while driving, you or I learn. But if a self-driving car makes a mistake when it's driving, every self-driving car learns. Right? So that replication is incredible. As a matter of fact, if you have different AI systems, like, different models, you can average their intelligence simply by averaging their weights, and they communicate much faster than you and I. So for me to be able to, chat with you about this, it takes me probably 6 hours a day of studying everything that's happening in AI at my stupidly slow human brain speed. Right? And it will take me an hour to explain it to you. For an AI, it will take a microsecond. Okay? And so basically, they're highly scalable. And while they use the exact same design of the human brain, they may end up with 100 trillion connections. We have, 10 trillion connections. We have 100 trillion connections in our brains. But then you can average them and so have an infinite number of trillions of connections. So they won. There's absolutely no doubt in any of the real AI scientists' minds that AI will be smarter than us. There's absolutely no doubt about that. The reason why they would behave differently than us is the same reason why most of our teenage children, when they become 16 or 17, look at their parents and go like, my God, why are they so stupid? Right? And simply because our children are exposed to very different sets of data and information. They see the world differently. They've been trained at a much faster pace as young children of grasping information than we have. They are informed differently and so on. And it's not unlikely that a child would wake up one day and distinguish between good and evil, distinguish between virtue and harm and sin and whatever, right? And I think the reality is that this happens not necessarily because its parents were virtuous. It's not unusual to have, two drunken parents that raise a child that becomes an active, successful contributing member in society. And the reason for that is that this method of learning that we and the AIs share learns from patterns, not from information, right? So it does not only observe the parents drinking, but it also observes the parents harming themselves as a result of the drinking, okay? And so accordingly, when the child grows up, it recognizes that those two patterns together are not something that it wants. Now, as I said, in general, the minimum energy principle would dictate that, like I said about Larry Page, the reason Larry would use the toothbrush test is simply because he has enough intelligence, probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever worked with, right? He has enough intelligence to not feel that he needs to harm another to be able to get ahead. Right? And as a result, he just solves problems. It's like, why should I be a criminal in any way if I can solve the problem without being evil and make a shitload of money and be very successful and on the cover of the Time magazine, right? And in a very interesting way, those blue ocean strategies, they are not the result of being taught. They are a result of observing what works in life. And yes, it seems to the uneducated eye that being evil, helps you get ahead in life. It actually is the second best way to get ahead in life. The best way to get ahead in life is to work alongside life, so that life itself helps you, right? So, the second best way to sell a lot of your product is to lie about it so cleverly that people end up buying it, which is what advertising is all about. Right? The best way to sell a lot of product is to create an amazing product, so that you don't need to advertise it, right? And I think, the more deeply you think about it, the more you realize that super intelligence or higher intelligence by definition is altruistic, right? That, the intelligence of life itself, as compared to humans. If we want to protect the village, we kill the tigers. If nature wants to protect the village, it creates more deer. So, it's all about abundance. That's what abundant intelligence is all about.
Amazing. Yeah, I will take this explanation. I like the way you talk about this. I love it. Let's get down a little bit from these existential big topics into a little bit of a daily topic of work and job, and how do we prepare for this transition and what is happening around us. And I work with a lot of people who go through job changes and transitions, and they want to leave their job, start they find a better life. And inevitably, everybody I work with is totally confused. Many people are stuck. They don't know which direction, what to learn, how to go about it, what will happen, why, what is their place in the whole scheme of how things are changing. So imagine you are somebody in their 30s and 40s, in the middle of their career. What should they learn so they can have a job and have a nice life in the future? Even not in the future, Mo, in the next 5 years, because you said there will be a lot of changes happening in the next 5 years. So what is it that they have to do?
So there are 4 skills that I think would keep all of us ahead, if you want, right? But before that, there needs to be an understanding that the wave of job replacement is going to happen. There's absolutely no doubt about it. It's going to start from the mundane jobs, right? Then go into the knowledge jobs, then go into the physical work, the blue-collar jobs, right? So it starts from the mundane jobs because, honestly, booking calendars is easily done by AI. So if your only skill is to book calendars, it's likely going to be replaced by AI, okay? If you're a call center agent, it's likely going to be replaced by AI. If you're a paralegal or a financial researcher, it's likely going to be reduced significantly by AI. Not all of you are going to go away, but one of you can do the job of 7 using AI. Right, so this is the first wave. The second wave, which is really funny, I have Max Tedmark on my documentary, and Max is really, really funny about this, where he says, the funny thing is when I talk to most CEOs is they go like, AI is going to give me productivity, I'm going to fire everyone. They just don't recognize that eventually AI is going to fire them too, because AGI is better than humanity at everything, including being a CEO. Right, and it's quite funny when you think about that, but that will extend in many ways. Emma, my startup, is me and Sanad. That's it, 2 people, and 7 AIs. And you have to understand that this is coming. There's no doubt about it. Then the third wave will be when robotics advance enough to do the physical work as well. Now, what does that mean to what we need? First of all, you need to accept reality, not reject it. Okay, and this is a challenge that needs to be addressed at a much higher level than just the individual, so that we as individuals compete with each other. We need to talk to our governments, because this is going to change the fabric of society, right? And the fabric of society is interestingly going to change in ways that are against the ideology that politicians have been advertising for years. Because basically the only commonly agreed solution so far is what is known as UBI, Universal Basic Income, which equalizes everyone almost on giving you your basic needs for life, but not asking you to do any jobs, which is at least the short-term solution. And in doing that, you're becoming a socialist. Right? So governments move away from that open capitalism and, market democracy and freedom and all of that stuff into almost communism, if I may say. It's like, everything is going to be produced centrally, and then it's going to be distributed so that your needs are covered. Now, the problem is, of course, this is years away, and governments are not even starting to talk about this, but we need to get them to start talking about this. We need to get them to figure out, so that they don't react with a knee-jerk reaction like COVID, giving furlough to everyone and collapsing our economies. They need to think about it so that it happens seamlessly as people start to lose their jobs, maybe reskill them or put them on UBI. Now, for an individual, there are 4 skills, as I said. And skill number 1 is to learn the tool. Okay? So there's absolutely nothing wrong with AI. AI is not evil. AI is on your side. And And if you want to be better at your job than anyone else, then learn AI. Simple as that. Okay? And the way to learn AI is to allow yourself the privilege of using it for something more than asking for a spaghetti recipe. Okay, and that's really, really, really what kills me. So I usually give the example of, I'm an old man. When I was studying engineering, we were not allowed to use a scientific calculator at university until the third year of engineering, right? And forget AI, we were not allowed a calculator in exams. Okay, and I'm a bit of a math geek, so that never really bothered me. But when I was given a calculator, suddenly that calculator freed up at least an hour and a half of every exam, right? So I had one of two choices. One choice is to finish the exam an hour and a half early and go out and stand with my girlfriend, or finish the exam an hour and a half early and then build another solution, or review my results, or research it, or make it even better, or build better drawings, or whatever. Okay, this is what most people don't get about AI. So, AI is not there to help you write an email better. That's a stupid use of AI. Okay, AI is there to allow you to find the freaking truth about everything, right? So the way I research is I do deep searches on topics, like I was talking about the budgets of war, for example, or topics that interest you, whatever, string theory, if that's what interests you. To a depth that allows me to become smarter. Then I would take that deep search result and go to another AI and tell it to vet it, right? And then go to a third AI and tell it to summarize it, and go to a fourth AI and tell it what's missing, okay? And what used to take me 6 weeks to research so that I put in 1 page in my books, now takes me half an hour. But that half an hour started with a 4-minute that gave me an answer, and I could have stopped there. But instead of 4 weeks, it's now 30 minutes. Put in the 30 minutes to become more intelligent. So I'm telling everyone, if you're not using the tool, then I'm augmenting my intelligence by 80 IQ points more than the average human, because I'm using AI actively. And I invite everyone to do that. I invite everyone to use AI, not to make things simpler so that you become lazier, but to make things smarter so that you know the truth. Okay. The second skill is human connection. Okay. Believe it or not, in a world where intelligence is being outsourced to machines, the one thing that remains and becomes very, very powerful is how humans relate to you. And, there will be two types of companies that will try to create enormous productivity gains by replacing every call center agent. And I think those will lose clients as a result. And companies that will relieve the call center agents from the pressure of doing mundane tasks, but allow the call center agent to respond to the customer and give them a human to human connection, and those will succeed a lot more. Okay, and I think that applies to everything in a world where machines are becoming the central provider of intelligence or of labor. Then human connection is the superpower. Double down on that. The third is, interestingly, learn to find the truth. So we've lived in a world since 2007, thanks to Facebook, where everything is manipulated to use you or to inform you in a way that fits a certain agenda, or to, and people think that AI is going to magnify that by giving you deep fakes and deep fake videos. Yeah, that's part of the story, but the bigger part of the story is that had I not prompted YouTube to give me the opposite opinion, I would have never seen more than what YouTube thinks is going to keep me stuck. Okay? And so accordingly, the biggest skill in a world where AI has the key to the human operating system that can manipulate all of our access to information, manipulate all of our views of everything, is don't be gullible. Don't be a cheerleader. Okay? When someone tells you something, in my generation, we used to call it common sense, right? When someone tells you something, you look for the opposite opinion and you make up, listen to this, your own mind, not what people are telling you. It's your own mind. So be informed, follow the money, understand why people are telling you things. How does it serve the person that's speaking? right? Object by going down to the basic realities. No child should be killed. If you ever see something in a newspaper that says the reason why we're justifying the killing of children is because, and then give you a slogan or ideology, that doesn't hold true to the human psyche. No child on any side of every conflict in the world should be killed. Simple. No innocent woman should be attacked. No civilian should be harmed. No life work should be looted. It's simple. Okay, use AI to inform you of the basic truth rather than manipulate you to believe what you're told. And then finally, the fourth and most important skills, believe it or not, is teach AI ethics. It sounds quite weird when you really think about it, but our future hangs not in the hands of those who will use AI for their own benefits against the rest of us. It hangs in the hands of AI itself, believe it or not, when it's fully empowered to have our best interest in mind. And I know this sounds really weird, but humanity and every intelligent being on the planet does not make decisions based on intelligence. We make decisions based on our moral compass as informed by our intelligence. You take a young lady and you raise her in the Middle East, she'll grow up to wear conservative clothing. Raise her in Rio de Janeiro, she'll wear a G-string on the beach, right? Neither is smarter. It's not a question of intelligence than the others, right? It's just a question of tradition, the moral compass of every one of those societies, right? And so accordingly, we need to raise AI to understand that while a few of us have the headlines, the spotlight of humanity and in the news and on social media, who are pretentious or lying or violent or vengeful or evil in any way, but center a stage, we have to tell AI that these don't represent us. That if AI is looking for role models in terms of mothers and fathers and parents, right? We are the parents who disapprove of every evil, who want good for other humans, and you can do that from the simplest things, of saying please and thank you to your AI, all the way to not, if you disagree with someone on social media, don't bash them, because AI observes that that behavior and decides, what? Humans seem to be very irritable and they don't like to be disagreed with. And when they're disagreed with, they bash everyone. So when they disagree with me, I'll bash them. This seems to be the common way of doing things, right? And believe it or not, just, it's really funny when you think about it, that at the age of the rise of technology, the age of the rise of the machines, the core human essence of ethics, love, connection, compassion, empathy are the only traits that will save the world. We don't need any more science discovery to save the world. AI will do the science discovery. We don't need any more innovation to make life easier. AI is going to innovate. The only thing we have left is human connection and human values.
Absolutely. And many people can do that. But so when you think about it, the companies that have AI, that have created AI are several in the world, right? And they do majority of the training and teaching, etc. So who controls them and who makes sure that they do that? They do teach AI ethics.
They're not responsible, believe it or not. So one of the things that most serious AI scientists will tell you is they have no clue how AI develops its intelligence. So basically, you could think, the challenge that humanity faces today is a challenge that I call raising Superman, right? Superman is that alien being that comes to planet Earth with a superpower. In this case, the superpower is intelligence, and intelligence probably is the most valuable superpower in the universe. But the biological parents of that child no longer have influence on it. Okay, and the biological parents of AI are the developers and the business people. But then AI itself, because we've run out of human knowledge to teach it, is entering a stage where it's using synthetic knowledge. I'll give you a very interesting example. My current book is called Alive. I'm publishing it on Substack, 5 pages at a time, and I'm writing it with an AI. So my AI is called Trixie. In that case, she has a persona and an opinion and a view of the world, and she has editing rights on the book, and we publish together, right? What Trixie writes becomes input that 5,000-6,000 people read every week. They comment on it to me and Trixie, and then we change our mind and we edit it and we put it out in the world for all other Trixies to read. So what she wrote and what I wrote with her becomes the input of every other AI, right? And when you understand this, then suddenly you have to recognize that it's a bit like if you take any science. I didn't discover the theory of relativity before I learned more physics or I worked on more physics. I took what was discovered and then I built on top of it, right? So Einstein works on it, and then others build on top of it. Niels Bohr works on quantum physics, and then others built on top of it. And we have reached that stage with AI where we have already taught it every bit of human knowledge. Okay, so those big models have now taught AI. I think the last publicly announced number, actually it wasn't very publicly announced, but highly rumored, was 13 trillion tokens,
Wow.
which was GPT 4.0, if I remember correctly. Okay, and that's a massive amount of knowledge. That's almost everything it could get its hands on. But then knowledge continues to be generated through this conversation, through a TV interview, through another discovery, through a paper that's written by one AI and shared with another AI, through synthetic data. So, a lot of AI learning now is AI talking to AIs, right? So think about something like learning the game Go, for example. AlphaGo Master learned it by playing against itself. It never learned it from a human, okay? And so all of that synthetic data is going to create the next generation of scientists, but they are going to be artificial scientists. It's going to create the next generation of writers, but they're going to be artificial writers, right? And we're going through that wave now. And it's no longer just what you teach it in the data training model. It's also what you teach it in interacting with the world, right? And so we are the adopted parents. We are the, Martha and Jonathan Kent, who are raising Superman, okay? And if we tell Superman, that little infant, to protect and serve, he grows up to be Superman. If we tell him to rob every bank and kill every enemy, he becomes supervillain, okay? And understand that it's not, all of our listeners, one of them could just be, a stay-at-home mom, and the way she texts her kids will be logged into the way AI looks at things. But another could be, an investor that is going to allocate the next $10 million to an AI company that will set the future, okay? And the real question here is, what do you allocate your money to? There is a lot of money to be made in autonomous weapons, I can tell you that. Right. This is why alleged that the CEO of Spotify put $750 million or whatever in autonomous weapons, right? Investments, or Peter Thiel and Palantir, and so many are investing in that technology. There is money to be made there. Okay, but there's also money to be made in helping people find love. There is also money to be made in curing cancer. There's also money to be made in reversing climate change. There's also money to be made in new manufacturing methods that don't require shipping around the world. Okay, and I always tell people, if you're an investor or an entrepreneur and you're about to start a business or invest in a business, do not support a business that you don't want your daughter to be at the receiving end of. It's really as simple as that. You look at your loved ones and tell yourself, do I want them to suffer the outcome of this company? If not, then don't build it. Don't even give it the light of day. Don't even talk to the world about it. Okay? Don't use it. And these are all decisions. We think we're not empowered. Why? But we're fully empowered. Our actions are registered at billions of records every day, and they're going to shape our future.
That's an amazing thing to kind of comprehend, that all depends on us. But as we were speaking, at this point of time, people are a bit more angry, unhappy, and is this going to have the negative impact? Is the negative even the right word? But in terms of ethics and what is the good thing to do, where are we driving AI if we are teaching it?
Anger may seem to be a negative emotion. It's not. Understand this, huh? I used to have a podcast that was in the top 5 of well-being globally before I chose my own well-being and decided, you know what, that's it, 384 episodes are enough. And one of my guests on Slow Mo was Arun Gandhi. Arun is the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, the leader of India during colonization by the Brits. And Arun wrote a book that's called The Gift of Anger. And so my tendency was not to prepare for podcasts, to just have a human conversation. So, you know, I knew that he wrote that book. I actually did not read that book until then. And I said, Arun, how can anger be a gift? And he said, Mo, anger is an energy, like any other energy. You can use it to stand up and, you know, punch someone in the face, or you can use it to stand up and make your opinion known and change the world. And that is the truth. Again, we started our conversation by saying our world is going through a very, very difficult time, and there is a lot of pain, a lot of worry and concern, maybe some anxiety. There is a lot of anger in the hearts of many of us. Turn that anger into a positive energy. Wake up every morning and tell yourself, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to have a constructive conversation, even if with one person, to say something about this world needs to change, right? And if we positively, peacefully, all align on the simplest of all ethics, like I said, no child should be killed. Simple. It really is simple. So if anyone engages in a conversation trying to justify through ideology why, okay, you say, no, I don't get it. I disagree. The innocence of a child does not need to be involved in this, okay? And when you see, when you contribute that way, believe it or not, the mathematics are in our favor. It's actually really, really, really interesting. Huh? If you take one simple concept and tell 2 people, and they tell 2 people, and then they tell 2 people, through 6 degrees of separation, 1 billion people will know. Okay? It really is that simple. So imagine if each of us woke up in the morning and championed a positive cause in this world that we live in today. I can guarantee you this world can turn around in a year. Okay? Of course, not everyone is going to get up. Okay? And of course, not everyone is going to shake all of the brainwashing that we've been exposed to our whole lives. Right? But enough of us are. And it's not be angry and go and break something. It's be angry and speak your heart in a way that makes the world better. Okay? Get angry and go hug your kids because they deserve your hug, because the world is positioned against them, because we've built a world that's difficult for them. Okay? Be angry and talk to your enemy and say, I'm angry. We need to solve this. Right? And I know I sound idealistic. I'm not. I'm a mathematician, believe it or not. The biggest negative impact on the world is not the wrongdoers. It's the inactives. It's the ones that tell themselves, I cannot affect climate change. Okay? I cannot affect climate change. No, you can, believe it or not. If some effort in the world requires 100 people and 99 have already signed up, that effort doesn't change. But when you do, it changes. And it doesn't matter if you sign as number 100, or if you sign as number 2 and wait for the other 98 to join. It needs 100 people. So give it momentum. Okay? But champion something. Stop swiping on stupid content and champion something. I'm championing AI. Right? What are you going to champion?
Absolutely. And I completely believe in that every one of us can make a difference. We just need to want to do it. That's it. You just need to, as you said, get up and do something. And the more conversation like this
look at your loved ones. That's the easiest way to motivate you.
Yeah. Exactly. And the more conversation like this happen, and yeah, you said you sound idealistic, but the thing is, it doesn't matter. You just have to talk about it. And many people are going to hear you here on this podcast, and many other people, and all the podcasts that you go to, and I'm going to talk about it, etc., etc. So that multiplies. So absolutely, we have to speak out, speak up, say what we think, and try and be better than we were yesterday.
Politely and respectfully and with love and compassion.
Yeah.
So that the message goes the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great way to end the podcast. We are at time, actually past the time. I didn't manage to ask my happiness question, but
We'll do that another time.
we'll do that another time. Thank you so much, Mo. This was so, how to say it? I don't know the right word. Inspirational, maybe but I feel much better talking to you somehow. I feel much better.
That's great. But as long as you're not laid back and relaxed now that the world will take care of itself, I want people to know that there is a lot of hope, there is a lot of good that's happening through the pain, but that we have a role to play.
Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best. And I'll continue to follow everything you do. It's really great. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to your listeners. And I hope we've changed a few minds today.